Model views have a crop region that you can use to crop out certain areas of the view. In this ground floor overall view, you can see the crop region. If you do not see the crop region, you can look in the Properties palette under the Extents area and make sure that the crop region visible parameter is selected. And the crop view and crop region visible, those are tied to the two toggles in the view control bar. Do not crop view and crop view, as well as show crop region and hide crop region. When the crop view is enabled, meaning that the crop region will actually crop the view and it's visible, then you can select it and click and drag one of the dot controls to adjust it. And when you do, you can see that it crops out certain portions of the view. When the crop region is visible, but it's not enabled, then it's just simply a crop region that appears in the view and doesn't really do anything. So you want to make sure that crop view is enabled if you are using it, and then either you can choose for it to be visible or not. So that's a quick overview of how the crop region works. And next is the annotation crop. And while the crop region applies to the model, the annotation crop will apply to annotation elements. And if you have certain tags that are around the exterior of the model, then the annotation crop can actually crop those out. For example, here we can see that the portion of the model is being cropped by the crop region, but these tags are still visible because they're inside the annotation crop. But if we adjust the annotation crop, it will then cut out those tags as well. So depending on what you are trying to show and how you want to show it, you need to be aware of the crop region and the annotation crop. Be aware that the crop region can also affect the size of the viewport when the view is placed on a sheet. All right, I'm going to expand this just a little bit to give us a little bit of room here. Another thing that we can do is create scope boxes and use those to control the size of crop regions. So for example, when we have dependent views, we can have a different crop region for each of those dependent views. And if you have a large project, you may have multiple views for each of those various areas, and so you may want them to all be standardized in terms of the size of the crop region. And to do that, you can use scope boxes. On the View tab in the Create panel, click Scope Box, and that'll activate the Scope Box tool. And really all you have to do is click 2 points to define a rectangle. So I will click in the upper left corner, and then at the bottom toward the middle of the building, and I'll create one scope box, and then I'll click in blank space, activate the scope box tool again, and I'll create another one for the other side of the building. And then afterwards I can select each one and I can adjust it as necessary using the arrow controls. Also, in the Properties palette, I can control the name. I'll name one Area A, and then I'll select the other one and name it Area B. And once again, we can control the size of those afterwards if needed. And in a 3D view, when the scope boxes are visible, you can adjust the top and bottom. So they are 3D elements. They do have a height to them. And I will now open the ground floor Area A view. And in the Properties palette, I'll scroll down to the Extents section. And for the scope box, I will change that to Area A for the Area A view. And then for the Area B view, I'll change that to the Area B scope box. And as I make those adjustments, you can see that the crop region changes to match the scope box. And so in this case, we obviously just have one view per scope box. But if we were continuing this project, we may have multiple views for each of these areas. And then that's where the scope boxes would really come in beneficial, because we're not having to adjust each of those crop regions manually and trying to get them to match. We just assign a scope box and then they are all the same. We could also create a scope box for the overall views. That way all of those match. And so once again, scope boxes are a way to standardize those crop regions.